Greetings, fellow detectives. Wizard Kitten here, bringing you a new Nancy Drew analysis video. Today's video is brought to you by the patrons over at Mystique Manor and by all the official Fellow Detective channel members. If you too would like to support the channel and gain access to exclusive features, check out patreon.com/wizardkitten to become a patron, or click join next to the subscribe button to become an official fellow detective. During this year's summer streamathon, I played as Academia Nancy, whose goal was to learn as much as she could from each of the Nancy Drew games while uncovering as many clues as possible. As I played through the games in this style, it became abundantly clear to me which games were educational of their own merit and which ones I needed to significantly supplement with my own fun facts. Some of the Nancy Drew games include real-life information and invite detectives to apply that information in a unique way. Conversely, some Nancy Drew games have almost no educational material or present information without actually making detectives use it in a functional way, which reduces the learning potential. So today, let's rank the Nancy Drew games from the least educational to the most educational. To help myself, I used a tier ranking system and then ordered the games within the tiers to figure out a definitive ranking. This video is spoiler-free and is simply an exploration of which games teach and which games do not. Let's start at the bottom with the games that really don't have any educational value. These games either do not present any real-world information or present real-world information in a way that does not allow for actual learning. Number 34, Stay Tuned for Danger. Nancy's soap opera-style death threats mystery may be exciting, but we don't learn anything in this game. It's all about the drama, but doesn't enlighten. Number 33, Secrets Can Kill and Secrets Can Kill Remastered. The OG Secrets Can Kill has even less educational value than Stay Tuned for Danger, but its remastered version does at least require spending some time with the periodic table, so at least we learned something. Number 32, Creature of Kapu Cave. This one is disappointing because there was an abundance of opportunities to actually learn about entomology and botany, but the game doesn't follow through. Despite completing frass puzzles for Quigley and plant puzzles for Dr. Craven, we don't learn any fun facts about bugs or plants. There are no books on the subjects and no informative signs. Shockingly, nothing. What a missed opportunity. Number 31, Midnight in Salem. Putting a list of names on a sign, showing me a graveyard with names, and spouting off random anecdotes with no connective tissue or application does not an educational game make. The museum in this game, the ghost tour, and the countless resident stories teach nothing. You can't just say names and expect information to stick. Once again, a major missed opportunity. A step above these completely uneducational games, we have the games that teach a little something. This is the largest tier in my ranking and includes games that teach only one piece of real information, games that teach us fictional information only, or games that might present some information but don't require any actual learning or application of said information. Number 30, Curse of Blackmore Manor. While we learn an abundance about the Penvillin family, we don't actually learn all that much about England itself, British culture, or real British families. This game is educational, but only in a fictional world. Number 29, Ghost of Thornton Hall. Similarly, we learn an abundance about the Thornton family, but very little about the Civil War, the antebellum South, slavery, or even ghosts. Much is alluded to, and there is technically one book with a teensy bit of information, but far too little. Number 28, Message in a Haunted Mansion. Raise your hand if you thought Lizzie Applegate and Diego Valdez were real people. Turns out, they're not. We might learn a lot about them and a bit about Chinese characters in writing, but otherwise, this game is mostly for the spooks. Number 27, Legend of the Crystal Skull. This game delivers puzzle after puzzle, but they aren't educational per se. We learn about teeth at one point and a teensy bit about New Orleans, but this game is more about solving puzzles than it is learning something new. Number 26, The Silent Spy. Just being in Scotland isn't enough to actually learn about Scotland. While there are technically some books that list important events in Scottish history or show us how to play a bagpipe, we simply don't get enough information to really learn, especially when we're distracted by the much more pressing mystery of Kate Drew. Number 25, The Shattered Medallion. While there are technically a couple of books and a couple puzzles that teach about Maori culture or New Zealand flora and fauna, the information gets buried in a sea of puzzles and confusing dialogue. Number 24, Ransom of the Seven Ships. Similarly, while we technically learn a bit about bats and sharks, any information we do learn almost immediately gets eclipsed by puzzle typhoons, annoying monkeys, and Nancy's seeming inability to care about her kidnapped friend. Number 23, Secret of the Old Clock. This game is the beginning of the osmosis learning games, where we do kind of learn simply by being in an environment that teaches us what life is like in a particular culture or time. All the 1930s slang, fashion, and technology included in the game teaches us a thing or two, but more indirectly. Number 22, The Captive Curse. Another osmosis learning game where we learn a bit about traditional German clothing and food, but little else. We see a glockenspiel, we learn about German monsters, and Renata most likely alludes to World War II, but this game focuses a lot more on the infamous monster than real history. Number 21, Danger by Design. World War II is at least directly mentioned in this game, and we do learn a little about French cuisine, vocabulary, and language indirectly, but much of this game focuses on the fictional Noisette Tornade, or the fictional fashion designer who likes to throw potted plants. Number 20, Last Train to Blue Moon Canyon. This is the first game on this list where we actually learn a real-life fact and have to apply it directly to a puzzle to solve it. By reading the gem book, we learn how to identify gems and make Jake's machine work, but this is the only concrete learning in the game, and the rest primarily focuses on the fictional Jake Hurley and Camille Voulet. Number 19, The Haunted Carousel. Similarly, we directly learn about real-life carousels in this game, including how they are made and important terminology. But otherwise, the majority of this game is spent learning about the fictional Rolf Kessler and solving riddles for tattling robots to help a character process their deep-seated trauma. Now we finally move up again on the tier list to games that do teach us something, but don't require us to apply the information in a meaningful way. This usually means that information is simply presented, but unless detectives actively choose to memorize it, then they probably aren't learning much. Good educators know that you can't just throw information at people and expect them to remember it. Taking the information and using it in a variety of ways, manipulating it, working with it, or using it to solve a problem results in the strongest learning. For the most part, the following games do have some good information, but are missing this crucial step. Number 18, Phantom of Venice. The most applicable thing Nancy learns in this game is some Italian vocabulary, but beyond that, this game is an osmosis game, with a sprinkling of educational material. We learn to play Scopa, we eat gelato, we see pigeons, and then we read a book about relics and make a mosaic, but the game needed to do more to cement this information. Number 17, Sea of Darkness. Similarly, we indirectly learn about Icelandic culture and a smidge about its food. We do learn some Icelandic words, ship terminology, and about Icelandic weather events in an isolated way, but beyond that, this game is mostly for the vibes and the puzzles. Number 16, White Wolf of Icicle Creek. This game does include a decent amount of factual information about wolves, but this information gets buried in an avalanche of puzzles, cooking, and character drama. It's a great one for the vibes and puzzles, but it makes it difficult to actually learn something new or apply what we've learned. Number 15, The Final Scene. This game will teach you quite a bit about Harry Houdini and magic tricks, but only if you seek it out. The rest of the game, understandably, focuses on finding Maya, but there are some educational gems in this one if you decide to look. Number 14, Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake. The ranger station is actually quite an educational location. but only if you take the time to read everything it has to offer, most of which is not necessary to progress in the game. The game does require you to learn and then apply Roman numerals, however, which is quite literally how I still know how to read Roman numerals today, so it does get points there. Number 13, Tomb of the Lost Queen. As educational as this one was, it still should have been more educational. With a topic like ancient Egypt, there is so much potential for educational value. While the game definitely presents a hefty amount of facts through books and conversations with other characters, the puzzles do not do a great job of making us apply the information. The puzzles predominantly involve decoding riddles or logical sequences, with the actual information becoming a bit of an afterthought. Not bad, but could be better. Number 12, Haunting of Castle Malloy. This is mostly an osmosis game, but it goes a step further in teaching us about Irish culture and lore by explaining things or actively having us participate. We learn about banshees and the fae, native herbs and flowers and their symbolic meanings, what a bodhran is, and pub culture in a rated E for everyone kind of way. It also requires Nancy to learn quite a bit about constellations, the Celtic seasons, and Ogham ruins, so there's some good educational value to this one, even if it could have gone a step further. Number 11, Trail of the Twister. Even as someone who isn't a huge fan of this game, I can admit that we learn a lot. We learn about how tornadoes are ranked, different cloud formations, tornado safety, and some history of Oklahoma. Still, we could and should have learned more. Nancy spends a great deal of time distracted by mice and gears and candy displays and puzzles that are peripherally related to storm chasing, but actually do nothing. This one was close to making the top 10, but narrowly missed for this reason. Speaking of the top 10, we now get to the games that feel legitimately educational. The games that teach us real-world information and require us to apply the information so we won't forget it. Number 10, Alibi in Ashes. Even if some of the information is skewed to work in a video game world, Nancy and the gang learn about forensics and then directly apply the information to prove her innocence. We learn about accelerants, arson, fingerprinting, alibis, and more, and it is all key to the case. Number 9, Treasure in the Royal Tower. While some of the facts are embellished or fabricated, this game teaches a ton about Marie Antoinette and the French Revolution. Furthermore, the information that we learn and the insights we gain become crucial to solving the ultimate mystery as an understanding of Marie Antoinette becomes more and more important. Number 8, Warnings at Waverly Academy. Even if it is the Nancy does other people's chores cliche, Nancy at least learns a lot by doing homework for the Waverly girls. She learns about the structure of DNA, learns about Victorian dining etiquette, and learns about the geography of the United States. I still remember what I learned from these puzzles because of the application, but the game even goes on to teach us a little something about the mysterious Edgar Allan Poe. Number 7, Secret of Shadow Ranch. I think this is an underappreciated educational game because so much of the educational value is practical or related to daily living skills. This game teaches and requires application for gardening, cooking, and caring for livestock. We learn a lot about horses, and we also learn a lot about petroglyphs, especially when we have to go looking for them. All this information is so effortlessly weaved into the story that we almost don't realize we're learning, which is usually the best kind. Number 6, Shadow at the Water's Edge. This game definitely transcends the osmosis game problem of some of the previous games on this list. Instead of just plopping Nancy in an environment, this game actively explains several Japanese customs and traditions and puts them into context. Nancy makes bento, she learns to write her name in Japanese, she makes origami, she participates in a traditional tea ceremony, she organizes stones as in a Zen garden, and learns of superstitions. It's the active application and the weaving of Japanese customs so beautifully into the story that makes this an excellent educational game. Number 5, Mystery of the Seven Keys. If any of the criticisms of Midnight in Salem were heard and remedied, it was the lack of educational value in the museum. Mystery of the Seven Keys teaches us a great deal about the history of Prague. I learned so much about Prague that I never knew before, even down to the coffee shop, the potato pancakes, and the marionettes. The application definitely still needs some work, but there was a lot of information, and I can't deny that I learned a ton. Number 4, The Deadly Device. This game screams science. Nancy has to learn and apply what she's learned in order to complete circuit boards, mix chemical solutions, use a 3D printer, use binary, and understand the periodic table, all while learning about Nikola Tesla. Some of the application for this information is a little iffy, but the sheer volume of educational material in this one is impressive. Number 3, Labyrinth of Lies. This game screams Greek mythology. Even though it has some application weaknesses like the previous 2 games on this list, the sheer amount of information in this one cannot be denied. The Greek alphabet, Greek architecture, Greek and Roman gods and goddesses, the mythology of Persephone and Hades, provenance, and Greek art are all subjects on the curriculum. Even if a lot of the puzzles fail to apply this information in the best way, you can't escape this game without learning something. Number 2, Danger on Deception Island. I have no qualms about the educational value of this mystery. Whale World is a perfect little museum with games and activities that help detectives cement the cetacean information in their brains. The game also includes information about the nautical alphabet, flags, life in the northwestern US, and sailing. We learn so much in this game. It's directly attached to the mystery, and it is all applicable. But even this wonderful game can't top the most educational game in the Nancy Drew series. Number 1, Secret of the Scarlet Hand. This is pretty indisputable in my opinion. Every inch of Beach Hill Museum is full of facts about the Maya and King Pakal. Furthermore, Nancy has to interact with almost every exhibit and use the information she learns in them to solve puzzles and complete tasks as the assistant curator. I knew this game was the most educational when I was able to use facts from it to help in my college-level art history class. It's a great game and easily the one with the best and most educational value. It's interesting for me to see how this list panned out, because it was relatively easy for me to set aside any personal grievances I have with certain games and simply focus on the learning. For example, Labyrinth of Lies and Trail of the Twister are 2 of my bottom 10 games, but I can't deny that they both excel at presenting factual information to detectives. Meanwhile, some of my favorites, like Curse of Blackmore Manor, Ghost of Thornton Hall, or Message in a Haunted Mansion, focus less on education and more on vibes and story, which is usually what I prioritize in a game to begin with. I think it's also important to note that even the least educational Nancy Drew games still hold massive potential for learning. Even if one isn't learning facts while playing the games, all of the Nancy Drew games encourage critical thinking, logic, problem solving, deduction, and so on. The simple act of solving puzzles is educational because it works the brain in new and creative ways. In a sense, all the Nancy Drew games are highly educational, but this list focused on the more traditionally academic. But what do you think, fellow detectives? Do you agree with my list? What Nancy Drew games do you think are the least and most educational? Which games taught you something that you still remember today? Let a Wizard Kitten know in the comment section down below. If you really enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button or tipping me for the video with a super thanks next to the download button right beneath the video. If you would like to come join a fantastic group of fellow detectives at Mystique Manor as a patron for the channel, gain access to exclusive content, and support the making of more content like this, please check out patreon.com/wizardkitten. I also have channel memberships with exclusive badges and emojis to use during streams and in the comment section. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming an official fellow detective, click join next to the subscribe button. Please feel free to follow the channel on Instagram or Discord, linked in the description box down below. And as always, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Nancy Drew and Cozy Game content. Thank you so much for watching, fellow detectives. I will see you soon.